Hey there. So I've been wanting to do this video for a little bit. It's really a guide to GitHub plus React website setup. A lot of people have been asking me how I create the websites I have for CodeBrain, how I'm building these things. So I thought I'd make this and show you in the entire process. The goal here is really no gatekeeping. I'm going to try to show you the whole process end to end of getting it set up. First, a few disclaimers. This is not for total beginners. There's complexity inherent with setting up a React website comparatively to something like a template or something that you're already downloading off the internet that's ready made. This is not a website builder. This is really a step up. Like, you are building a hyper optimized, high end, very efficient website. When you're building with these modern tech tools, you're able to do whatever you want. And so the things I'm going to be using are, first and foremost, GitHub as my management control versioning software. I'm going to be using Cursor, or you can also use VS Code. It's any IDE that works. I like Cursor. I like their agent that's involved in there. I'm also going to be using codex. I also use Claude Code. I often use both of them simultaneously. And I'll be using both the terminal and the IDE terminal in order to get this set up. I've already authed myself, so authorized meaning I've already set up so that my computer is connected to my GitHub account. I've already installed some things such as the brew packager, the npm. So these are all terms that it is technical. Nothing is out of reach. Everything is actually pretty easy, and there's a huge amount of resources online. And not only that, but ask ChatGPT, ask Claude, and they'll tell you exactly what to do and how to set it up. It's something that is accessible, and the technical side of things is just a learning curve, and there is a learning curve. I think that anybody, if someone's really starting from scratch and has never done this before in their life, it would take 10 to 20 hours to really get into the flow of things, understand it, get familiar with it. But once you do, it really unlocks a lot in that you start understanding what goes on behind the scenes, what allows these software to work, and what allows them to be built. So what I've done here is actually I'm going to be launching my own website. I've decided to relaunch my agency. I want to have a new spin on it. I want to pivot towards helping people set up AI within their business and setting up automations. And so I've said this is a perfect opportunity to do it along with you and show you how I'm doing it. I'm going to be using a paid template, something that I have purchased with my own money. And so I'm not going to be making this available for you, but I have found an alternative React template that I think is very well constructed that you can use as a boilerplate. So boilerplate is a term in tech jargon to mean a set of initial files and packages, so systems that work together in order to have a given result. In this context, I've chosen the open SaaS boilerplate, which is a template that allows you to have a website. You can actually see it here. This is the exact website that they created with React. It has everything. It's got auth involved. It's got pricing. It's got an admin dashboard. It's AI ready. So these things are available free online. Here's the GitHub. I'm going to have it linked in the show notes. And it also describes to you in great detail through their documentation exactly how to get started with it, what to install with it, and, for example, Node.js, how to install that within your computer, etc. So I'm not going to be covering that in the context of this video. What I will be covering is, once you have, for example, you've went ahead and you've cloned the GitHub feature. So here I can go here and I can grab this and clone it, or I can ask my Claude Code to clone it for me. What I want to do is actually open up the repo. So here you go. I've got my Lemonbrand relaunch. I'm going to be uploading this, but in order to see this in a much more in-depth fashion, I'm going to need to open it up with an IDE. The reason I need to open up with an IDE is that by default in Windows and in Mac, there are some files that are actually hidden away. Here, I just pressed a Command Shift dot, which actually shows you those files which are actually hidden away within a folder. And especially when it comes to application files such as this one, there are quite a lot of things that are hidden away behind the scenes that you can't necessarily see straight off the bat. But if I go to something like Cursor and I open that project and I go find that Lemonbrand relaunch and I open it up, you're going to see that I actually have all of these files available to me, especially things like gitignore, which tells your system to ignore certain files because you might have some passwords or security features in there, so you don't want them to be uploaded. All right, so now that I've opened up Cursor, first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go up to the top and open up a new terminal window. So what this happens is this is actually the same terminal as if I simply go here and I open up a new terminal. This is the same terminal that's on your computer. Now, what's cool about it is when you're in an IDE and you open up a terminal, it actually opens it up in the right place, because a terminal, you have to tell it where it is. So right now you can see that we're on my MacBook and we're in the Lemonbrand relaunch. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to call up Codex. So Codex is OpenAI's version of Claude Code. Very good model right now. I do recommend it for coding tasks. And first thing I'm going to always do is check that I'm on GPT-5 Codex High. The model is very good, much better than the other ones, and I tend to use this one when I'm doing coding tasks. You do need a pro license for this in order to access it, so a lot of these things are not free. Finally, once I'm doing this, I'm going to explain to Codex, this is the repo of an app. We're going to be initializing a GitHub repo with it. Now, the reason I do this as a first step is when you start developing, GitHub is one of the most important and crucial aspects of any project, in that it's dealing with version control. The way we develop is it goes through cycles. You have a working version, you start saying, hey, I want to add this feature, so we're going to actually make a branch off that main working application, and we're going to start adding features on that branch instead of that main tree. And once we're on that branch, we're actually going to do our modifications and we're going to push to get to this branch as we're developing. The reason we do this is multiple reasons, but primarily it's to make sure that we have version control, so that when we're starting to add things, we don't go overboard. We don't start adding 10 different things, because if something breaks, it's very difficult for us to know which one is broken if we did 10 things at once. If we did only one thing per version, well, it's very simple for us to say, oh, this is what's broken, let's revert to a previous iteration and try again. That saves so much time. The one time that you do something with multiple steps and you realize you just lost 4 hours of work, it's not a very enjoyable feeling. So right now, Codex is told that repo structure looks good, and I'm going to tell him, go ahead, git init. Git init means git initialization. So I'm going to tell him, I'm going to send this over to GitHub. I'm going to initialize the repo, and I'm going to put it into the server. Now, what we see here is the repo has been initialized, and we can see that it has this. Now, what we want is this has only been initialized locally. So GitHub is actually on the cloud, it's on a website, but if I went on github.com right now, I would not see this repo, this repository. What I need to do is push to main create new repo. So what I'm telling it to do now is, I don't want this local. I want a version of this online. And the reason I want it online is in order to see it, to have it within my GitHub and have an initial version that I'm going to be able to say, this is my V0. This is the point from which everything started. And then I can actually start working on it progressively. The way it works oftentimes is I actually go through a few phases. So what I often do is I will first initialize the first version of the Git. And then what I will do is local develop it. So local development is, instead of every single time I need to do something, I push it to GitHub, to the cloud, which can be a bit cumbersome, is I'm going to do my changes locally and I'm going to run it locally. So what I'm going to do is actually launch like a local server within my computer, which are called local hosts. And I'm going to be able to view the website on my local computer first. And then when I do modifications, I check them out locally first. Once that's good, I then push them to main once I'm satisfied with the things I've done. So as you can see here, Codex has gone through and he's preparing a few things. So the git ignore has plenty of things that are not necessarily necessary for what we're doing right now. And he's also added a few elements that we don't necessarily want on the repo. It says it's also adding permission. In this context, it's asking for git add. I'm going to give it permission within the context of this session to do these things for me. I'm not worried about it messing up anything. This is a clean repository, and I'm simply going to approve. So now it's saying it needs to write the repository history in Git to record the initial commit, and it's the command it would use is git commit -m initial commit. I'm going to prove it to run this right now. It's going to ask for my password. The reason for that, and I have a password manager installed, is that GitHub is extremely important and you don't want anyone to have access to your GitHub. So my recommendation is use a password manager. I use 1Password and I do recommend it. And have a way to have your tokens or keys set up within that password manager, which allows you, as you just saw, very easily to approve or not this kind of commitment. Security is essential when you start dealing with React apps and apps in general, because you're dealing with people's data. At the end of the day, your customers are real people. They have names, they have emails, they have passwords, and you are responsible for them as the app creator. And I think it's very important for us as app developers, generally speaking, to secure our data and secure our clients and our customers' data. So now it's saying it's reaching a point where it says it needs to re-authenticate. So it's telling me actually what to do. It's saying you need to re-authenticate with GitHub. So it's saying do GitHub auth login, and I'm going to just follow in the steps. So I'm going to let it do this. And it's essential when you're doing this kind of project to not get frustrated when things don't work on the first time. These are extremely powerful tools. Almost every one of the largest companies in the world and the most profitable companies in the world use some variation of this kind of technology to offer their services. So it's a gateway to a huge amount of potential abilities and power within to be able to create these things. And so these tools they are user friendly, but they do require quite a lot of investment and learning and time. And it's sometimes easy to get frustrated by the first roadblock where you're saying, oh, it's not working, it's not easy. AI is meant to make this simple. AI makes it accessible, but it doesn't necessarily make it simple. You still need to put in the hours. You still need to put in the reps. You still need to do the things in order to get it working. Like right now, during the talk with you, I'm realizing this is not working. It's taking a lot of time. And from my experience, when I see a model taking this kind of time, it's because it's encountering some form of roadblock. So what I'm going to do here is actually just escape it. I'm going to go over to terminal here. I'm going to make a new window, and I'm going to bring this window over onto my other desktop because I've got so much stuff started. I'm going to go over to this, and I'm actually going to write the same thing, but in an unmodeled version of it, if you will. So right now I just did our GH auth login, and you can see immediately why the model got blocked. The first thing it's doing is it's asking for user input. Models are very bad at this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say yes. I'm going to go and authorize through github.com. I'm going to say my preferred protocol is HTTPS. I do authenticate GitHub, so I'm saying, yes, I do want to authenticate. How would you like to authenticate? I'm going to log in with a web browser. And you see here, it's saying, I have a password or a 8-digit one-time code that I need to copy. It's also then telling me, please enter to open up the login device. So then I have my account already set up. I paste with Command V this code. I continue, and it's asking me, do you authorize this for this? I have my organizations, and I say, yes, I do authorize this. I'm going to also use a passkey, which is another security method, and you see one password popping up again. As you can see, there's a lot of elements to this. And so we see here that GitHub is now logged in, and we actually have a new version of GitHub available. I'm going to ignore that for now because I want to complete what I was doing, and I'm going to go back into my codex session in order to get that initial version of the website. So then I'm going to say gauth done, please commit to a new repo now. So now I've gone ahead and reauthorized GitHub. Codex, I've told it, it's now good to go. You should be able to do it. It's going to say, it's going to check, and it's going to see gauth status. It's going to try things, and it's going to try to push this thing to GitHub. We're going to come back when it's already done. It's done now, so you can see that it said command gh repo create, Lemonbrand relaunch, private, source, the remote, origin, push. So private is in opposition to public. This is a private repository. This is something I don't want people to have necessarily access to. This is not open source. This is my own personal website. And in this context, I don't want to publish it. As I said before, this is a template I've purchased, so it's not mine to give away for free like this. So I'm going to approve and run. And then I'm going to see Codex working on this, and you'll see that this is a lot of the process of working with agents, especially if you're active. It's about understanding what's happening, and as a human deciding, is this what I want, or is this not what I want? And there's a big portion of this is where human in the loop is very important. Agents are capable of a lot, and more people who are more and more capable with agents are capable of doing a huge amount. But it's always, most people are going to use agents in this way. It's going to be a collaborator that has a lot of knowledge that you're going to be guiding towards a certain direction. So what we see here is that the repo is ready, and I can ask him, what is the URL of the repo, in order to go see where this repository has been uploaded online. So we can see that the GitHub is currently available. I'm going to press Command click, and we see that Lemonbrand relaunch was just committed. It has one commit. That commit is the initial commit. It was done locally, and you can see all of the files have been committed. What's important here is you also have what's called a README. And READMEs are really important because it explains to you and everybody else what's in the repository. I always recommend you spend some time, or you ask your coding agent to create a README for the document or for the repository. It's always what appears down here. Now the question you might have is, what did we just upload? And the way I'm going to show you this is I'm actually going to go back to cursor, and I'm going to say, launch the server locally to see the website. Now, this is what I was talking about, local versus GitHub. So now I've uploaded those files, and they are available on GitHub, and I'm going to be able to consult them to say, this is the initial version of the project, this is working, and I want to be able to interact with it. So that's my versioning, that's my history. Now what's going to be happening now is I want to develop it. So I want to actually build out the website. The way I need to do this is, as you can see, that first thing that Codex is doing is called npm install. It's preparing to run a development server, because you can't just spin up a development server. It's not always running on your computer, because that would use up a lot of resources. This is actually something that needs to be run on your computer. And you'll actually see the difference between a good computer and a bad computer when you start doing some pretty heavy development, because there needs to be memory physically as well as CPU that is associated and given to the server so it can run, so it can exist. It's not something that just happens and is always running on your computer. Your computer has to actually create that environment for itself. So it's very important to understand that npm installs, all these packages have an actual physical component in that they are occupying memory and CPU and bandwidth in your computer. And so you can't just run 1,000 copies of a website. It will crash your computer. It's always best to have 1, 2 max service. And you'll actually notice that sometimes as you get more and more complicated development, you're going to need multiple servers. In that I can have a server running my web page, and then I can also have a server acting as if it were my payment processor. And those 2 servers locally on my computer can communicate really like the same thing on the internet, where my web page is communicating through DNS through the internet to Stripe or to Polar or to any other payment solution. And so it's important to understand that these things do have a physical component. It's not just something, it's something that you have to give your computer time to spin up. What's cool about it is that once it is set up for the first time, you don't have to reinstall things every single time. So as you can see, we're currently creating an NPM cache. We're setting things up. But the next time I want to spin up this environment in this specific project, all those things will already be done. So I don't need to repeat the process. So as you can see, there's a huge amount of things that have been uploaded. And the reason they're graying out as I'm scrolling down this list is these are all actually part of the git ignore. So we don't need to push these things to GitHub because these are just subscripts and portions of code that are helping run the machine, run the local server, and have the session work locally. I'm just pressing yes right now. I'm just going through this and making sure to give Codex the commands necessary to get this going. And so as you can see, you don't want to push these things to GitHub because GitHub doesn't need to know this. Only the server running your website needs to know these things, and it's not actually part of your website. They're supporting documents, supporting files, supporting code to that website. Now I'm going to let this run. I'm not going to keep talking here, and I'm going to come back once the page is live and that I can show you the final result. So now it's actually done installing. We can see that the next steps are to open up the website and to see it. So we're going to do that together. And as you can see, I have a local host running and I have the website. And this is the basic website. This is a template that I can now go ahead and start modifying and making adapted to my website. I hope this is helpful for people looking to get into coding development in general. I feel like it's an extremely rewarding sensation to be able to see these things, modify them, and also start really understanding what's going on behind the scenes. And so this is the baseline of any great project. If you are using an app builder, a lot of these same lessons still apply, in the sense that, like, if I had a Replit website and I had it downloaded, there might be some additional steps that the model might need to do to make it workable in a local environment. But at the end of the day, this is one of the best ways to go deep, to go really fix a bug, to understand what's happening, and to improve your experience in terms of creating a very complex app. And I find that having models, especially within an IDE like Cursor, allows you to really be able to say, hey, I want to go check out this page, and I can open up the pages here under the app folder and see the actual pages and what's being rendered on screen, and say, hey, I want to change this section. So I can actually go and check out this section and command click on it to go check out the section, the component that's behind it, find the exact thing that I want to change, and change it very precisely. It allows you to go much more in depth, and at the end of the day, go much faster. I hope this was useful. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'd be more than happy to answer, and hopefully this helps you build your next GitHub app.